I was just feeling extremely depressed. I was like not in alignment at all. I didn't know what I was doing. I was putting in all of these hours, but for what? I was saving a lot of money because I didn't really have a social life at this stage. And I decided to take that money and I went straight to India, just realizing how small and insignificant I felt in these huge valleys and mountains, but then reaching the top and realizing that actually, I can do anything I want. And straight after that, I moved back to Melbourne and I started building businesses.
From sleeping on the floor of his office with his girlfriend, struggling to make ends meet in his business, to one day getting a call from a random guy. That random guy's name, Kanye West. And let's just say that call may well have changed his life forever. Our guest today is Noah Hunter Dorsey. Has there been any really pivotal or challenging times within Future where you questioned whether it was going to work or keep going?
We nearly lost the business. 3 guys basically lined the floors with petrol and they lit the whole thing. One morning, I got a phone call from a girl called Bianca. And she explained that her husband, a contract had just ended for his business and that they were looking for a new team to do the marketing. And that a Super Bowl ad was going live in 48 hours and their website was broken, it wasn't working, and we needed to pull this together. I was given a credit card with literally no limit. For the next 48 hours, I didn't sleep at all. And then that was the first time Ye actually called me. And
I'm going to keep this intro short and sweet, but hello guys, Chris here and welcome to episode 54 of the Pocket Podcast. Today's guest is Noah Hunter Dorsey, the first podcast he has ever been on, but oh my goodness, if you just had a little listen to that trailer, you would know that there's some juicy stuff in this conversation. I was blown away, but just before we get into this conversation, I want to announce that I am officially Gymshark's newest athlete, which I am so stoked about. As you guys know, I've been training for Hyrox and training such a big part of my life. And Gymshark is the best in the business all around the world when it comes to clothing in and outside of the gym. If you guys want to check out their products, this is one of their new oversized tees in their collection. And you can go to the link in the description or the show notes below and use code Chris Griffin and you'll get a discount off your order. It directly supports me, but it also allows you to get a cheeky discount on all of their amazing products. So go and check that out for yourself. But let's get right into the episode with Noah Hunter Dorsey. Just before we jump right into this episode, I need to take a minute to thank our sponsor of the podcast, Whoop, which is this thing that is on my wrist, and it's also the ultimate health and fitness tracker. It doesn't leave my wrist. The only time I take it off is when I'm changing the color of the band. This thing is the best companion when it comes to achieving your health and fitness goals. There's a couple of things that I love about the Whoop. One of the things is the sleep coach, because Whoop tracks my sleep and it gives me a score based on how well I've performed. And it also gives me so many other metrics such as how much deep and REM sleep I got, how many times I woke up throughout the night. And I use all of these metrics to help improve my recovery, improve my sleep so I can wake up feeling fresh to attack the next day's activities. I love this thing. And if you guys want to try out Whoop, you can go to the link in the description or the show notes below or go to join.whoop.com/Chris and you will get 1 month completely free and they'll send you a band completely free. Once again, go to join.whoop.com/Chris or hit the link in the show notes or the description below and take your health and fitness to the next level with your best companion, Whoop. Let's get right into this episode. You guys enjoy. Noah, welcome to the show.
thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Mate, Oprah defines luck as preparation meeting opportunity. Do you agree with that? You mentioned that in a vlog probably about a year ago now.
Yes, I absolutely believe that. And when I first heard it, it really resonated with me. I think that you create your own luck. And a lot of people see successes maybe of other people or even for themselves. And this idea of an overnight success, which you see all the time in headlines and in articles, yet it's like an iceberg. You see the tip, but you don't see the years or the decades of grunt work that went into preparing yourself for that opportunity. So yeah, I think throughout my career and what I've done, all of the key moments that catapulted my business or my personal growth happened very quickly. And there was an element of luck to these things, whether it was timing, meeting the right person, but I had to be in the game. I had to be doing the thing first. And maybe I didn't see results for many, many years and then they all came overnight. So that's why I believe it. It resonates
Preparation.
with me.
that's so fascinating because defining preparation as in like, I've done the work so that I'm ready to see an opportunity. I've failed enough times so that I go, okay, no, that's not going to work. That's going to work. And you kind of sharpen the sword on your knowledge in whatever particular space you're trying to get lucky in.
Yes.
So then when the time comes where it's timing or it's a lucky time to get in.
Yeah.
You're considered lucky, I guess. But then also the thing is about luck and this overnight success concept is it's not even about the timing, which makes the like depth of part of the iceberg below the water. It's just like how much risk, how like ballsy have you been in a sense, because you can spend 10 years and tread water lightly and then get some success. And then you can be like, I've been working at this for a decade.
Yes.
But I think a lot of things aren't even tied to the timing of it. It's about like how much you've done. And I think that makes up that part of the iceberg. We'll get a lot more into your journey a bit more. I want to talk about a lot of the successes, a lot of the cool things you're doing, but I feel like to give the audience a bit of context on you, we should go back to little Noah and childhood. Noah, you were born in London?
Sure, I was born in London. That's right. Yep, I was born in London to an African-American father and an Australian mother. And then between the ages of kind of 2 to 13, I spent most of my life living between Singapore and Hong Kong. So very much so living in the Asian culture. And that was my life for a long time, all of my friends, over there. And I went to 11 schools throughout my journey. So we moved countries a lot between Asia and Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland. And as a teenager, I moved back here and then started skateboarding and surfing and, really got to enjoy that Aussie childhood as well. So I had kind of experienced both. And now I'm based in Melbourne, and Melbourne is where I call home. Yeah.
And what did you learn in the Asian cultures? Is there anything from a young age that you took away from the way they operate over there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Asian mentality is they are like, when it comes to education and work, like even in year 2, year 3, the amount of homework and the amount of study that was required from myself was actually insane. Like it was a lot. So yeah, there was that component. And then also just when it comes to the food and the music, all of that made a huge imprint on me as a young child.
And when did you move there? Because you were born in London.
Yes, I was only in London for maybe a year or two. Like
Right.
it was, I have the passport, I was born there, but in terms of my connection to London, I don't really have one because neither of my parents were from there and I haven't spent any more time since.
So you mentioned the family was very like one thing led to a next, moving around, changing countries all the time. And there wasn't really like a home base for a long period of time. You kept moving. Do you reckon that played a role on you? And is there any takeaways from that? Like having to move, is there anything you've learned or maybe there's the things that you still do today because of that?
For sure. Well, I did have a little bit of an identity crisis when I was young because people would ask me, where are you from? And I never had an answer for them. And it actually took me a really, really long time to find an answer because as a kid, say 10 years old, I had an African-American father, an Australian mother. I was born in the UK, but I was living in Asia and that was home because I'd grown up there. Like Singapore felt, I spent more time in Singapore than any other country until I was 13. So I never had an answer and it was a little bit confusing for a very long time. And I only found a home when I moved to Melbourne. I moved to Melbourne with the idea of building business. I wanted to create something in a big city. And over a period of 5 years, I managed to do that. And that was the first time in my life when, when I was traveling overseas and you'd meet other travelers and say, where are you from? And I would go, I'm from Melbourne. And that was a huge, huge moment for me. Finally, something inside me I felt peace. I was like, this is it. This is where I'm from. Wasn't born there, didn't grow up there, but.
So when you say you had identity crisis, like what does that feel like? Like when you're in that moment, like what do you mean by identity crisis?
I think just as an only child and constantly moving schools and constantly moving countries, when I would enter a new world or a new country, I would see everyone and they were, very ingrained in what they did. And for example, like, in high school moving around, a lot of these people had grown up together already and I was the new kid coming in. And moving between cultures, it's just such a different way of, living and different perspective. So I would see it all. But for me, I didn't really know where I fully fit in. You know what I mean? And especially moving from Asia to Australia, like I was very Asian in the way that I like spoke and thought and all like the games that I grew up with and things like that. So I couldn't catch a football. I couldn't ride a skateboard, or I couldn't, I remember the first day in an Australian school, someone handed me a cricket bat. And it was a really beautiful thing. He was trying to include me. And then like I got striked out straight away, like had no idea what I was doing. So yeah, that was tricky, but also I became very adaptable and just learned how to, hold my own and how to integrate with different people, all walks of life.
Was that challenging? Would you say like having to move around so much as a young kid, was it quite a challenging thing? And do you feel like you built up maybe like a level of resentment towards your parents for doing that to you?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, my parents gave me so much opportunity. Whenever I had ideas or wanted to do things, they were so supportive. They would be the first people to say, yes, you can do that, So they built a lot of like self-esteem and confidence within me. So there was no resentment. In terms of was it a challenge, it was all I knew. I think that there's a lot of kids that lived in the same house and went to the same school all the way through and also had very challenging lives, a whole nother set of issues. So was it challenging? Sure, but I wouldn't change a thing. It shaped me into who I am today. And I was just very blessed to see a lot of the world and experience a lot. So when everyone finished year 12 and they were like, we're doing gap years, I was just like excited to stay in the one spot. I was like, like I've seen that. Let's stay in Australia. This is awesome.
Yeah, the irony of that, of like you look at the challenging times in your life, but when you look back at those and call them lows, you would never take them back. It's like you wouldn't go back and relive that because that's made you who you are today.
Exactly.
And so it's kind of like this thing where you don't like going through hardship, yet the hardship is what shapes you more than anything else.
Yeah.
And so like looking at that, and if that's your pattern, it can allow, and you can embody that feeling, it can allow you to go through hard shit easier because you go, oh fuck, these are the things that actually shape me.
For sure.
And then you can use that and go. Were your parents entrepreneurial, and did they help kind of support you or pave that way for you, or was it kind of like on your own accord to learn business?
They were not entrepreneurial, and we were very much so kind of middle class, like, lived well, but nowhere near above our means. My dad was an athlete and my mum was a creative. And she had started a lot of passion projects and small businesses growing up. Like when I got into skateboarding, she decided to start creating skateboard bags so you could travel with them because I needed one. And then I watched her sew together a skateboard bag on the kitchen table, and then she ended up getting it manufactured, got 100 units and sold them to the local stores. So I got to see that, and that definitely had an imprint on me. So yeah, I think that's where the entrepreneurial spark came from. But both parents, very simple, middle class household.
I wanted to go back to this luck part, how we were talking about at the start of the conversation. Is there any key moments in your life or any things that come to your mind straight away that were considered quite lucky in your journey in business?
Absolutely. There's a few that come to mind. I think the first one that really kickstarted my whole journey was COVID and the lockdowns, which is an interesting one because the world went into shambles, and for a lot of business owners, it had an incredibly negative effect on their business, which was very, very hard. For me, on the other hand, though, I had an e-commerce business at the time selling skincare. And this was the first business that I had that did become quite successful. But prior to COVID-19, we were just kind of plodding along, barely making ends meet and barely keeping it alive. But when the world went into lockdown and e-commerce boomed, my girlfriend and I, we started the business together, we made our first $1 million in the first 4 months of COVID, which was just like insane experience. I had never seen money like that. And mind you, it was money coming in and going out just as fast, you know what I mean? But it was the opportunity that allowed us both to quit our jobs. She was nannying and babysitting. I was a freelance filmmaker trying to get jobs and, make sure I had enough money to pay rent. And, we both quit those jobs and went all in on this. So Was it luck? Maybe, but we'd been working on this brand for like a year and a half, seeing very, very little results, and then what felt like overnight, and nothing had really changed. The product was still the same, the ads were still the same, but the timing was perfect, and yeah, we had an amazing run.
So consumer spending started increasing and people spending. What was the main catalyst for that change?
Everyone was at home, retail was closed, so people were spending on e-commerce. Also, skincare, a lot of people were wearing face masks, breaking out, or they were inside, under air cons and getting dry skin. And our product was the solution to all of that. And we also just built self-care into our brand. Like, it was very much so about confidence and actually like positivity around blemishes and acne and things like that. Acne was something that I had growing up, my girlfriend had growing up. So we both understood like the spiritual and the mental effects that can have on you. So the brand message was really about being, hey, this is a normal part of life. You're not alone. Here's products that will help you through it. But more importantly, when you are practicing that self-care with these products, I just want you to remember that you're perfect the way you are. Yeah.
When you say spiritual effects of having acne, what do you mean by that?
I think just in terms of confidence and being able to, leave the house and go into social settings and feel really good, like that's sometimes challenging, right? Because, you're just self-conscious on how you look. So I feel like in terms of when I say, spirit, the spirit's crushed a little bit because you're not living out your authentic self, So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's a fascinating thing. The reason I just am curious about that is because I know spirituality gets thrown around a lot in different forms and different extremities. But it can even be as simple as how you feel when you're walking out and the feeling you have towards yourself, I guess. That kind of self-esteem part, like the way you view you.
Yes. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. I kind of look at that and I see a lot of marketing now, obviously, and you would know, given all the experience you guys do with marketing, with creative converters and a lot of the other stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but like capturing a feeling, not selling the product. Is it like
That's
people
right.
you want someone to feel something or solve some sort of pain that they're going through rather than just like, this is the product sort of thing and making the marketing around everything but the product, and a byproduct of that is the product. Is that something that you would specialize in, or am I wrong in saying that?
No, there's a saying that's, people buy with emotion and then they justify with logic, and it's absolutely true. You want to, if you're selling a product or a service, you want to sell something a lot bigger than that, something that people can buy into, whether it be an ideology or, whether it be aspiration, anything like that. There's also another really good book on this, which is Seth Godin, Marketing. This is Marketing. I have to fact check that. But he talks about the idea of going to the hardware shop to buy a drill bit. And it's not the drill bit that you're buying, it's the hole in the wall. But it's actually not that. It's the nail that you're going to put in it to hang the picture of your family. But it's not just that. It's when your partner comes back and sees what you've done and that whole emotion of it. So there was this paragraph in that book, and that I read that over and over again because, you have to really think about what do we want as humans? And at the end of the day, it's to be happy. And you can basically link anything back to that.
Yeah. One of Seth Godin's, it's probably one of my favorite books, Purple Cow by Seth Godin.
Yeah.
And that's taking that next step further. Okay, so once you've understood that, maybe 1,000 other people have understood that same thing about the particular niche that you're in. How can you be Purple Cow and stand out from the other 99 people trying to do the same thing? And so it's like, take those principles, then go, all right, what's something that like is Purple Cow that's going to stand out from everyone else doing it, so then we can make some noise and stick our head out of the pack. I feel like that's
right.
Yeah, for me, that's been a constant reminder of like, what are the things that I can do that's going to move the needle enough to make me stand out from everyone else trying to achieve the exact same thing?
Yes, yeah. We do that a lot when we look at launching products into new markets, and that is taking an existing product but marketing it to a completely different niche. So you can really just angle the way, it's all angles. Like when we're testing it, different avatars, different angles to sell a certain product. There's a million ways to sell a product. But also changing the dimension of products. And a dimension can be something like price or size, but it can also be time. And I feel like that's really good to build in. Like if you can take someone on a journey from here to here over a period of time, and then show that to them and show the whole emotional journey from starting to achieving desired result. It's so powerful.
Yeah, and for you, obviously extremely knowledgeable on the marketing front. Has it always been there, or have you been kind of building the plane on the way down, trying different things and figuring out and identifying new problems in your life or in your business, and then kind of solving those problems and landing to the next? So have you always been very fascinated with marketing?
No, I was always a creative. So I grew up playing music. That was my first love. I started learning the piano when I was 6 and I never stopped. I play every day to this day. And then my second love was video, because I realized that I could actually add visuals to the music that I was creating. And I grew up skateboarding a lot, making lots of skate clips. And these skills that I had around content creation lent themselves so well to marketing. So it wasn't until later in life that I, met my first mentor that eventually gave me my first client, and I was able to make video and audio productions for clients. So then I started to understand sales. How do you sell yourself as a creative? Often creatives struggle with that, and that was me. I didn't know what I was worth or how to actually engage with someone else and, deliver value for an exchange. So it was sales first, and then obviously like that led it into marketing. And then I realized that, you can actually convert people without speaking to them as well. And that really fascinated me. So I went all in.
So the journey's kind of, you had Tommy Skin, then you had creative converters, then you had future fulfillment. I kind of see this this trend of, okay, I've got a product, we're doing really well, I'm coming across all of these problems with the product. One of those being marketing. We're spending all of this money on agencies. I think we should take this in-house and do it ourselves.
That's right.
So then you create creative converters, and then you then do all of that, and you realize, hang on, like a massive part about e-commerce is fulfillment. Let's do 3PL as well.
Yes.
Is that kind of how, can you talk to me a bit about that journey and how that looked like with the progression with your businesses?
Yeah, totally. That's exactly right. So I came from the brand side first, obviously, with Tommy Skin. And it was really just looking at our P&L and looking where all the money was flowing. And, we were spending so much money on fulfillment and so much money on other agencies to handle things like email marketing or media buying. And it was really about how can we turn these costs into revenue centers. And I guess the funny thing is with each business, they actually just kept getting bigger and bigger. So, when we were doing the skincare, we were doing about $200,000 a month with Tommy Skin. And then we started the agency. A year later, that agency was doing $500,000 a month. And then we started Future. Future got to $2 million a month. So it was just each business grew. And I think, seeing these different business models as well allowed me to figure out which one I really should be pursuing for the next 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so for you, has it been this interesting thing trying to balance where your focus goes? The more things grow, I'm finding like when you're doing so many different things, it can be hard to, go all in and get the results from the one thing that you're trying to focus on, because you're doing so many different things. It can be hard.
Yeah.
Has that been a challenge managing your focus and what things to work on? Or
I think that when, especially in your 20s, post-school, it's so important to try as many things as you possibly can. And that's exactly what I did. And I've just been so blessed to work with so many people and have opportunities present themselves that would not have been possible if I didn't try all these different businesses and put myself in all these different positions. So it's really just the act of figuring out what is like the truest form of like passion and potential for me. And I found that now, but I only found that through trying all these things. So if you do want to do a lot of things and grow things, it also comes down to having the right people to do them with. So, I would never start a project or do a business without a partner or partners. I think, there's so much magic in working with other people. And if you want to do it fast, do it on your own. But if you want to go really far, you bring everyone with you. And that's really, how I think about these things. It's also like when you have multiple projects, often project A will inform project B and project C will inform project A, and you get all these amazing feedback loops. And you just grow a lot quicker.
Having the people in place, the partners to help execute on it. So you're not just doing it all alone. Obviously, you can't really have multiple 7-figure, 8-figure businesses when you're just by yourself. It's not how it works. Right?
No, exactly. It takes a team. Everything is team.
You mentioned as well just then that you've finally found the thing that you're passionate about or the passion point that you want to focus on. What is that? And has that been a hard thing to find throughout your journey?
It's funny because it's a bit of a full circle moment for me, because right at the beginning, like I explained, everything I was doing was creating. I was like making these skate videos, creating music, jamming out with friends, things like that. And that love for video and for content creation and for creating in general and just expressing ideas and, taking visions and turning them into life, that's what got me to start Creative Converters. And, when it was just me, my first hire, that's what we were doing. And then the team grew to 6. And, I started to manage people. And then before you know it, I had 35 full-time employees in a massive office with, really, really high rent. And I was no longer making videos. My job was HR and finance and just putting out fires on a daily basis. And I kind of just lost, the whole reason I started this was to, be creative. And now I'm doing none of that at all. I'm looking at numbers all day and reading contracts. So, I since sold Creative Converters about 6 to 8 months ago. And, Future, my business partner, and I run it together. And Nick is very heavily involved in operations. He's just a genius when it comes to setting up warehouses and making these things run amazing. And I focus on the marketing and building the brand and getting new customers in the door, which means I'm now making videos every month, and I'm now back in the ad account, and I'm making ads, and I'm pulling in all these amazing creative people that can bring our vision to life. So I'm just so excited again. And to be able to also just share the weight and the responsibility of what comes running a business, with 100+ employees with someone else is also really, really good.
It's a common theme of we have all of these green light tasks and red light tasks in our life. The green light ones, the ones that we like doing, we could spring ourselves out of bed in the morning to actually work on that. And then there's the red light tasks, the ones that we just don't want to do.
Yeah.
And it's this art of just trying to remove as many of the red light tasks that you have throughout your day, outsource, delegate, so then you can focus on the thing that A, you're best at, B, you're more passionate about, you actually enjoy. So you can sustain what you're doing.
Yes.
And then B, you don't get to the end of the day and you're like, fuck, that was a horrible day. You can kind of do the things that you're enjoying in. And I guess just finding, it's funny, one of the mentors I'm working closely with one-on-one at the moment, Jim Fortin, we've been trying to unpack this a bit more and talk about the best hires for me. And we're assessing what my day looks like. And a common theme that's been coming up has been I've been procrastinating things. And so there's a thought in my mind where things are going so good. So when I'm hit with a massive list of to-dos that are red light tasks I don't like doing, I just don't do them. So I'm like, no one's going to die. I'm okay. I'm doing well. I'm chilling. I'm doing, quoting, and this is like a childhood thing, I'm doing better than everyone else in my family, so I'm okay. I'm doing well. Yeah. And he's like, mate, you're not on this earth to be doing well. You're going to achieve great things. And so it's not that I want you to do all of these red light tasks day in, day out. But it's if they are what you need to get done to get you to where you want to be, we need to get them done somehow. And so it's all right, well, let's hire for those tasks so that you can actually get the things done.
Yep.
Because I found myself just procrastinating because they're all shit I didn't want to do.
Yeah, right.
And so it's this interesting thing, balancing team and being able to outsource the right things and the right moments.
Yeah.
You mentioned you sold Creative Converters?
I did, yes.
Is that public or?
It is now.
It is now.
Yeah.
How was that for you, getting rid of that and moving on?
That was my first exit, and it was a very positive experience for everyone involved. And I was really, really proud with the business that I had built. I felt like I had got it to a level that honestly, I could not have even dreamed of it when I started it. If someone told me, we were going to be working with some of the biggest global brands and have thousands of content creators making content for us, 35 employees in my dream office with the grand piano in there and the sound system, everything I, could have dreamed of, we did. So it was just a huge chapter for me. And it marked the end of one chapter and the start of a new one. Sometimes I speak to other founders and they feel a little bit lost afterwards because the emails stopped and the messages stopped. And I was like, whoa, this is really, really weird. But I had Future to sink my teeth into and go all in on, which was, an awesome transition. But, we went to Europe for a while and just took a month to let it all sink in. And then I got straight back into it.
Yeah. How did you know it was the right time to move on? I'm going to pause this show for just 1 minute to talk about anti-aging and longevity, more specifically some of the supplements that I've been taking every single day to stay on top of my health, to make me feel younger and more youthful for longer. And the two products I've been taking every single day by Melrose Future Labs is the NAD Plus Booster and the Muscle Protein Complex. This booster contains nicotinamide riboside, which is a precursor to NAD Plus, which is responsible for cellular renewal in the body, making sure that you can renew your cells better as time goes on, making you age less. And I take a capsule of that every single day. And then the other one is the Muscle Protein Complex by Melrose Future Labs. And there's an ingredient in this which blows my mind and makes it so much different than every other protein on the market. And it's got calcium HMB, which helps you maintain muscle mass even when your training load decreases, which is absolutely crazy. If you guys want to try out any of these products, you can go to the link in the description below. And if you use code Chris Griffin, you'll get a discount off your entire order alongside all of the other amazing anti-aging products. Once again, go to the link in the description below or go to melrosefuturelabs.com.au and you can use code Chris Griffin to get a discount off your order. Let's get right back to the show. How do you know it was the right time to move on?
The whole process of it all happened very organic. It wasn't actually really planned at the time. So Greta, who purchased the business, she was actually a mentor of mine prior to me even launching CC. And, I was making a lot of videos for her and she was introducing me to other clients. And she actually once said to me, I think you should turn this into an agency. And I was like, yeah, I guess I could try that. And then five years later, she bought it off me. So it was wild how that happened. But yeah, I couldn't have planned it. It just, it happened the way it did.
You mentioned on a video, like again, a year ago when you're posting some videos that you found that there was, you'd face one challenge in the business and then you'd kind of pivot the model a little bit and then you'd go again and then you'd face another challenge and pivot the model again. And I looked on the website now and it's heavily focused on TikTok right now. Is that what you were doing before you exited as well?
Yes. Yeah. So when we started the agency, we were very much so focused on UGC, and Facebook and Instagram were the primary channels that we were creating content for. And I think we were one of the very first agencies to start offering that. One of my very first clients was Davey from The Oodie. And at the time, The Oodie was just very, very new business for him. He had some other companies that were doing far better that we were also making content for. But we really pioneered this idea of native content in UGC together with The Oodie and, took that brand from an idea, to a business that now does multi-9 figures per year. So working with Davey, I got to really refine my skills, and then I opened up the doors to take on other clients. I guess the rest was history. But then other people started doing it, and things changed, especially in e-commerce and in digital marketing. And when TikTok came out, I just very quickly noticed the way that people were creating and consuming content was changed dramatically because of the TikTok platform. So we started to create, all of our content, and when we went through ideation and how we created content was very influenced by TikTok. And then we decided to go all in on it. And again, we worked with some, incredible brands like Bondi Boost and Kathmandu on TikTok and got, really great results, which set us up to also work with some other brands. And yeah, by the time I sold the business, we were known as a TikTok agency.
Yeah, cool. And I think it's an interesting thing where you say it was a natural progression to exit that when Greta bought the business, and then you could kind of sink your teeth into Future. What did that look like when you went, okay, I'm going to go all in on this? Or was there other things you're working on as well? But like for the most part, you were going to go all in on Future. Was this like a new tasks that you were onboarding? Was there like more responsibilities you had to do? Or was it kind of just, all right, now this is my focus. I'm going to do this and take it to the next level?
Yeah, it was just less diluted in terms of, the time spent. rather than trying to manage two companies. Now I could just focus on one. And, we just took it to another level, like in terms of the marketing component. And also this year, we're documenting more of what I'm doing in terms of, creating vlogs and jumping on podcasts, with people like yourself. This is really inspiring me at the moment. And I think that, this is what it's going to take to, take Future to become, a global recognized brand in the e-commerce industry. So that is now my goal. And I didn't quite have the capacity to do that before. And now I do.
Has there been any kind of really pivotal or challenging times within Future where you questioned whether it was going to work or keep going?
Absolutely. Well, we nearly lost the business 2 years ago to an arson attack. So one of our warehouses got broken into in the middle of the night, and 3 guys basically lined the floors with petrol and they lit the whole thing. And we watched a business that we had put all of our last dollars into and years of just tireless work, doing everything we could to build something that we were so passionate about. We watched that go up in flames and basically get burnt to the ground within 3 minutes. And then we had to deal with that.
What was going on in your mind in that moment?
At first, shock, because you think about the things that can go wrong in business. You run out of money and you have to let go of people, or someone sues you, and you think about all these worst case scenarios. But never did I think that someone would burn the business to the ground. And then we had to face the harsh reality of it, which was, a lot of debt. And we had to start rebuilding. So, it was literally the next day we got the site next door. We got a temporary Wi-Fi installed. Our systems were back up and running the following day. But it definitely took a toll on, our mental health and our energy. But giving up was never an option, and obviously Nick and I, we have the support of each other. So, and the team as well. The team were absolutely incredible through that stage of the business. But yeah, there was moments there where we thought maybe we won't actually recover from this. But we did, and we're stronger than ever. And these kind of things, they really build your stress tolerance and your crisis management skills. Because it happens, you just don't know. And you either give up and lose, or you just back yourself in and you go, well, it is what it is. What can we do right now to just keep going and keep going, right?
How old were you then?
I was 26. 26 years old.
And you just mentioned stress tolerance. What do you mean by that? You've mentioned it a few times on different things about it's a massive lesson to build your stress tolerance. What do you mean?
Yes. So in business and in life, there will always be moments of stress. And stress, like all other emotions, the more that you can manage these things and view them as something that comes and leaves you, you are not your emotions, the easier it's going to be for you, and the more inner peace you will retain through this journey, because it will get stressful. So I look at stress like training any muscle in the body. It's just about doing the reps. And, after something like an arson attack, like a warehouse fire, people come to me with issues that maybe before that would have been a big deal. And now it's like, easy, we can solve it. Let's just figure out what we need to do. Who do we need? What do we need to put in place? Let's keep moving. So I would say that for a lot of people, focusing on building stress tolerance will serve them very, very well in business.
So when you say focus on building stress tolerance, what he's basically saying is go through more shit. That's basically what you're saying, is it not?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing about stress and hard times and pain and suffering is pain is only relative to what pain you've experienced in the past. So the only way to go through more pain easier is to go through more pain at a more severe level, right? And so it's like if you've had your whole warehouse burnt down and one of your staff members calls in sick, you're not bummed. But if it's your first business and that staff member is responsible for packing orders and you've never had someone call sick on you and you've had this plan to go to the beach today and they've called in sick and you've got to go in and pack orders instead, you're pissed. Pain is only relative to what pain you've experienced in the past. If you want a happier, pain-free, less stressful life, go through more pain. It's the only way. Ryan Holiday, the Stoicism approach, he talks about the obstacle is the way. Like the obstacle is the way. The only way forward is through. Like you can't just click your fingers and become more calm in the chaos. It's like, no, go through more chaos. Chaos becomes calm.
Yes.
It's like, okay, stress tolerance.
So true. That was very well said. Yeah.
Like stress tolerance. Be more stressed in order to go through stress easier. And I just love these comparison points. I look at the low times and the challenges and the moments of uncertainty, and I just go, that is going to make everything in my life easier.
Yeah, exactly.
So how's that for a frame though? So if we're going through a hard time, if our pattern is that the hard time makes everything in our life easier, and we can be in that hard time and go, fuck, this is only going to make my life easier moving forward.
That's right.
You can go through the hard time easier?
Yes, for sure. It will make your life easier because, you'll build that tolerance. Also, it will shape you into the person that you need to become to go on and keep building and keep progressing as an individual. And also, I think people grossly underestimate what they can actually handle in terms of what you can take on. And when your back is against the wall, if you really do have that entrepreneurial spirit and that drive, you can handle so much more. It's kind of like, when you run out of breath, for example, you actually have a lot more in you when you gasp if you're not in a critical situation. And it's the same in business and life. So yeah, you can surprise yourself.
How did you learn that? Through going through more, or did you always have this understanding of, I've got more in me?
Yeah, just going through more, not being afraid to fail and not being afraid to be in those difficult situations. I mean, for me, I've got nothing to lose, really.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think growing up, moving countries and moving schools so much, everything in my life was temporary. And as a young child, I started to recognize that pattern that, okay, I'm making a new group of friends, but I know that in 12 months' time, I'm going to be leaving them. So it sounds sad, but it's not. It's just I don't have attachment to things. And if something doesn't go as planned or doesn't go well, I don't hold on to things, because when you do, not only do you feel it physically, especially in your shoulders and your neck, but it will hold you back. One door closes, another one opens. And at the end of the day, as long as you're healthy and, you break bread with good people, that's all you really need. And, fortunately, I've always had that. And yeah, that's what I mean.
So this temporary mindset of like, oh, I know I'm leaving in 12 months' time. So like, you're not attaching yourself to things. Do you also think there's a negative that comes with having a temporary mind with things? Maybe you don't show up the right way like that you could. Like for me, I talk about this temporary mindset a lot, and I find it's extremely hard to show up as the best version of you when you know something's temporary. Because you're not going to go on that date with that girl because you're only going to see her once more, and then I might be back in a couple of years' time. I'll see you there.
Yeah.
Or like you're not going to show up with your training as much because you go, once I get back into my routine, I'm going to then focus on my training or whatever it is, right? It's like, oh, I'm away from here. When I get back to the office, I'm going to get into my routine where I'm getting in here before everyone else. Like,
yes.
Is there a challenge with having this temporary mind aside from not having to, attach yourself to things? Do you think there's like a challenge with not being set in stone?
Well, I think a lot of those examples that you gave are really based on like future thoughts, like, this is temporary because in the future something will change. And I think it's really important to be present in absolutely everything that you do first and foremost, regardless of whether it's forever or whether it's temporary. You should show up as your best self. And if you're doing something that isn't on purpose, then you shouldn't be doing it at all. You should try and stop doing that thing as soon as possible. I think where it has helped me in being a positive is more around good times and bad times, because you have, seasons in your life where everything seems to be going extremely well. And then there's also seasons where you'll face hardship and challenges. And I think the key in all of this is to remain calm in all of it, because it will help you with better decision making. You will be able to basically just retain your inner peace. When things are really good, we're chill. When things are really bad, we're also chill because that's the ride.
Is there anything you do in those hard times that help you?
I sleep.
Sleep.
Yep.
Like copious amounts just all day? Or
Yeah.
just sleep?
I think, if it gets a little bit much, I just like close the eyes and sleep. And usually when I wake up, I feel good again.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I've always been a really good sleeper as well.
Wow. So like literally you'll just go, okay, things are hard. I'm overwhelmed. There's a lot on my mind. I'm just going to hit the hay.
I'm going to hit the hay. That's right.
Yeah. Right. Okay. See, I look at that and I feel like that's kind of trying to avoid and not hit it face on, maybe the challenge. And I feel like maybe it's bottling it up to the point where it might just resurface again. But you're saying it's more like this too shall pass. I'm just going to sleep on it and move forward.
Well, no, look, if it's something that's out of your control, then you need to just come to terms with it. But if it's something in your control, quick nap, as soon as you get up, head on. Like you hit that thing head on and you have that conversation with that person that you know is going to be a really tough conversation, but you get it done. You know what I mean? And also when you approach these things, you want to make sure that you're not in a state of high emotion because then you'll likely make it worse. So, quick kip, take a load off and then go deal and do what you need to do.
I love this because that it kind of allows you to reset, recharge in a sense, and then not go act on things rationally. Like when you're tired and you're not sleeping properly and you're lacking sleep, you're acting a bit more rationally, I feel, and you're or irrationally, whatever the right word is. But you're kind of like acting in this tense nature about you. You've got no calm, flowing nature about you. You're all on edge. And so resting kind of can allow you to do that.
That's right.
I want to talk about a time you had when you're, I'm not sure when it was, but you were in a period of your life where you might have been lacking a bit of clarity and vision and you decided to go to India for a couple of months on a soul-searching quest to find oneself.
That's right. Yes.
Talk to me about that time and why you did that.
Sure. So at the time I was living in Melbourne and I had a girlfriend and I had a bunch of really close friends and I was freelancing, but I didn't really know what I was doing yet in terms of career. I was still working it out. And I was working for a specific company in Sydney and I was actually flying to Sydney every week or every second week doing jobs for them. Just a lot of filmmaking, interviewing other entrepreneurs, and it was an entrepreneurial magazine. And eventually they offered me a job. They were like, look, you're coming up every week. You may as well just move to Sydney and let's, do this full time. So I did that. And that was outside of, the jobs as a teenager, like making sandwiches and working at bars, dish pig, all of that. This was my first like proper 9-to-5 corporate job. And I spent 4 months living in Sydney, catching the ferry from Manly into Surrey Hills and then going back every day. So very, very long days. And leaving my girlfriend behind and all of my friends in Melbourne to move up here for this job, it was like a big deal for me. I was like, I'm really going all in on this. And by the fourth month, I was just feeling extremely depressed. I was like, I was not in alignment at all. I didn't know what I was doing. I was putting in all of these hours, but for what? And I didn't have any friends in Sydney either. So I was saving a lot of money because I didn't really have a social life at this stage. And I decided to take that money and I put a backpack on and a pair of Doc Martens, low cut. And I went straight to India. And I spent 2 months traveling India and Nepal on my own. And this was very much so, a coming of age for me, a time for me to really figure out who I was. So, I brought a ton of books with me and spent a lot of time reading, and then I went into the Himalayas and actually hiked base camp in those low-cut Doc Martens as well, top to bottom.
That's crazy.
And, hiking mountains for 9 days, like that was an incredible experience as well. Just realizing how small and insignificant I felt in these huge valleys and mountains, but then reaching the top and realizing that actually, I can do anything I want. And straight after that, I moved back to Melbourne and I started building businesses.
We will get back to the episode in just 1 minute, but first I need to tell you about Switch Nutrition, one of the main sponsors of the show. If you guys are a regular listener, you would know that I love Switch and all of their products, and they're a game changer for me to keep on top of my health and fitness, to make sure I'm recovered well, feeling the most energized, and everything in between. But this is their hydrate product. I have a scoop of this every single morning. This new flavor, the mango and passion fruit, is probably the best tasting hydrate product I've ever tried in the world, and I've tried a lot of them, if not every single one of them. And then the sleep product is their designated sleep formula, which I take every single night before bed in some water so I can sleep like a baby, making me feel awake and energized every single morning. If you guys want to try out any of Switch Nutrition's products, you can go to the link in the description or the show notes below, or go to switchnutrition.com.au. And if you use code Chris Griffin, you'll get 15% off your entire order. Once again, go to the link in the description or the show notes below, or go to switchnutrition.com.au and use the code Chris Griffin for 15% off at checkout. Let's get right back to the episode. Wow. That's kind of this, I want to talk on this like mountain analogy thing where you feel so small and then you get to the top and feel unstoppable.
That's right.
How does that feel?
That makes me want to get up right now and like go. Like that is so exciting for me. Absolutely. Yeah. I just see so much opportunity everywhere. And I just know that with the right people and the right execution, anything is possible.
I love that. I look at this like, even if we apply this mountain analogy to life, this could come out really weirdly because I've never spoken about this, but let's roll with it. Why not? So like we look at this analogy where we have a mountain that we're climbing in life, whatever it might be. We're climbing this mountain in our Doc Martens. We have no idea how we're getting to the top, how long it's going to take, if we're going to get thirsty, if we're going to trip over on a rock or there's a sand slide and we slip down. But we have this hope that there's light at the top, and we really like this idea of getting to the top of the mountain. So we kill it. We do it. We keep climbing.
Yep.
We fall. We trip. We scratch ourselves up. The Doc Martens might get a rip in them. But then we feel like this challenge. But then when we get to the top, we see the light and we look down and we go, holy fuck, not only did I just climb this mountain, but I have the confidence in myself that I can take on anything now. I feel unstoppable. But then what happens is we don't walk down the mountain. We look up and see another one and we go, oh, should we just go and climb that one too? And we onboard this next level of pressure and pain and suffering in order to achieve another thing in our life. Do you feel like that's been a thing for you where it's been hard to stay content or stay in one spot because you get to the top of that mountain, feel unstoppable, and because of that nature of feeling unstoppable, you want to go and conquer more?
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that you've battled with in your life?
I would be lying if I said no. And I think for all highly ambitious people and people that want to build something that's bigger than themselves, they probably all have these same feelings. So yes, I just need to keep checking in and reminding myself to smell the roses and enjoy the journey, because, you know, that's what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, even to this day, it feels like day one. It feels like I'm just starting and there's, you know, so much more I want to achieve. But everything that I'm doing is just out of pure passion for bringing people together and building things. So I love the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess like, it's just a great reminder that it isn't about the destination, nor is it about the journey. I think it's about having something to chase and something to kind of, not something to chase, but something to get out of bed in the morning and have some mission or purpose to strive towards. I think if we can be healthy and we can have connection to ourselves and connection to others, the only other pillar is just having some mission or purpose to strive towards, to like have that little bit of excitement, put us on our toes a bit throughout the day. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I'd also add to that, you know, on top of having something to chase, it's about having something to chase with someone else, whether that's your team or your business partner or your life partner, whoever that is. But these successes feel so much better and they're so much more fulfilling when you've struggled with others and you get to bring them all with you along this journey and to see everyone win. And that is the most fulfilling thing, because I think at the end of the day, at the end of this journey, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be thinking about the abundance that you created for yourself. It's going to be about the abundance that you made for other people. And hopefully they're around you when you're on that bed. And that, I think, is one of the reasons that we're here.
Love that. Do you feel like there's any lessons, key lessons that you learned about yourself while you were in India?
It's a good question.
Or maybe there's like a something you learn about their culture, or something that you've onboarded in your life, or something that's taught you about you.
For sure. From a cultural perspective, definitely. When it comes to traveling, and I think that everyone should travel, also if you're from the Western world, going to, the East and also developing countries is such an eye-opener. But when it comes to perspective, and going back to that point about always wanting the next thing, that you climb one mountain, there's always another one, whether it's like more money or more materialistic stuff. But then you go to these other countries and, you meet people that don't have nearly as much as you do, but they're so happy, and their way of life is very, very different. Just bringing it back to the simple things. So I think that, even spending time in Indonesia, I've spent the last 2 years living there as my full-time base. Just getting that worldly perspective and always checking in keeps me grounded, keeps me humble.
Yeah, having that just sense of bringing yourself back to now and what's going on.
That's right.
It's like I filmed something earlier today, actually, thinking about this. We're constantly chasing, and we always want the next best thing, which is great. It's important to have goals and things that we're striving towards, but we just can't lose sight of what actually matters, which is what we're going through, what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go through my days and when the birds are chirping, I don't even hear them, right?
Yeah.
I want to be present and in a position where I'm aware of my surroundings, not just so honed in on what I'm trying to achieve that I miss out on all the little beautiful parts that life does have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Indonesia, and you've been living there the last couple of years. What was the decision behind Bali?
Yeah, well, my girlfriend and I went there for a holiday. It was a working holiday. We kind of just stayed in the same neighborhood and, worked on laptops and ate good food, and I was surfing and just fell in love with that lifestyle. So we decided to set everything up that we were doing in terms of business to allow for that kind of location freedom. And we made it work, and I got to spend 1.5 years, 2 years there, and it was unreal. So good. I was also traveling between Australia and the US and China a bit while I was there. But yeah, just reconnected with surfing a lot, which was a game changer, and got to meet a lot of really, really cool people from around the world while I was there.
Why is surfing a game changer?
I think just getting in the salt water every day. And I was just in Sydney. You said that you used to live there. And, even being in Sydney, it was just so, so good being able to wake up and get in the water. That as a ritual for me is so good. Going to the gym, I haven't really been a gym person. So being able to be active and get into that state of mindfulness. And it's very meditative as well. Anything that's going on, when you're looking at a 6-foot wave that's about to break on you, you're not worried about the other stresses in life. You're just worried about getting under this thing and then the set out the back that you want to catch. So yeah, I love that. And, also in terms of building business, I love the game of it, and having something else to work on that isn't tied to money as well, like surfing, and just pushing myself outside of my comfort zones and building a new skill and getting good at something is something that I really enjoy.
Do you think Bali is conducive for business success, or do you think it can set you back? Do you feel like it's a positive environment to create successful business if you're living there?
I think it really depends what you're doing. For me, no. It was no longer serving me. And that's why I made the decision to go back to Melbourne. However, I'm so fortunate that I did, because maybe one day I won't be in a position to just get up and move to another country like that for, a couple of years and come back. I know there's a lot of people over there doing business within the Indonesian economy. And I think in that case, well then absolutely yes. They are a thriving country right now. Their dollar is the strongest dollar in Asia, and they're seeing just so many booms in different industries. But for me, I needed to be back in the city. I needed to be close to my people, and I need to keep grinding, because that's the chapter of my life that I'm in. I've got the energy for it. And before I have a family, before I have kids, I just want to work as hard as I can because I know my own potential. And I just want to make sure that I don't let myself down or anyone down around me.
Has there been any experiences in your life recently over the past couple of years that gave you a bit more confidence? Like any maybe successes or cool stories that you've experienced over the past couple of years that kind of give you this little bit of boost of, oh, fuck, this is actually possible. I could do even greater things.
Yeah, for sure. So in February of last year, I was actually living in my office. I was between Bali and Melbourne. And at the time, I've been living in Airbnbs for the last 2 years, but at this time I didn't have one. And it was coming off the back of a fair few months where it was very hard keeping the agency running. I had a lot of commitments in terms of financial responsibilities, offices and employees. And it was a little bit deflating at the time because it just felt like every month I was just trying to just break even and just try and get there. So at this time I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor in my office. I hung up curtains in it, and then every morning the staff would rock up and I'd have to make sure I was already up and awake and ready to go. And bless my girlfriend, she was right next to me going through this. And one morning I got a phone call from a girl called Bianca. And Bianca and I have a mutual friend who connected us. And she explained that, her husband, a contract had just ended for his business. It was called Yeezy. And that they were looking for a new team to do the marketing. So the brief that was given to us was basically, Kanye West is now on his own, recreating the Yeezy brand, and that a Super Bowl ad was going live in 48 hours. And their website was broken. It wasn't working. They had no social media accounts, no ad accounts, no ads. And we needed to pull this together. And I just remember being like, man, is this real? Like, this is crazy. At this stage, I hadn't spoken to Ye yet, but I had been inducted. His chief of staff, Milo, called me and introed me to the team and just ran me through, hey, this is what you're getting yourself into. Just know, the business is run on iMessage. You're going to be getting put into a lot of text message groups with a lot of numbers. It's all good. I'm here to support you, but, let's do this. So for the next 48 hours, I didn't sleep at all. Like, it was just, one of the biggest pushes ever, but we had an insane team to do it with. And at the time, the business was doing about $40,000 a day in sales. And when I spoke to Bianca about this, she was embarrassed by that. So I said, well, let's get it to 4 million a day. And she said, all right, let's do it. So over 48 hours, we worked with Jonathan, who was based in New York, to fix the website. We got the cart working. I set up ad accounts. I was given a credit card with literally no limit. It was just, if I could hit certain ROAS targets, spend as much as humanly possible. And we pulled it off, we managed to get some creative assets live. We launched the ad account that night, and I went to sleep knowing that the following day, the Super Bowl ad was going live and the ads were going to kick in overnight. We woke up that morning, I checked the phone. We had already done $5 million in sales before the ad had even gone live. And the paid ads were just going insane. And Ye had also changed the price point to $20 for everything. So it was going viral on Reddit and it was just going insane. And then that was the first time Ye actually called me. So, Bianca said, have you seen the sales today? I said, yes. She's like, okay, you need to speak to my husband. And then I chatted with Ye and he said, well, now that this is working and we're onto something, I want to give you the vision. And he spoke about Yeezy and what he wanted to do. And it was, he's a genius. It was incredible to work with him. And we continued working with him very closely, one-on-one like that, for 4 months. And we generated over $100 million in revenue. At one stage, we were spending $150,000 a day on this ad account. And it was an insane experience, met a lot of really cool people and saw a new way of doing business. And what I mean by that is, one, the level of scale was extremely eye-opening for me. I hadn't, seen someone at his level operate, and to work that closely with him and to see, how big he was thinking. Because I think people limit themselves with what they think they can achieve. Like, this is my goal. It's like, well, you need to push that goal way higher, because chances are you might not hit it, but where you land is going to be so much further than, that original goal that you set. So, that made me start thinking a lot bigger. And the other thing was just speed. It was like anything that needed to be done, a group conversation was made, and it was just basically like, who is the best in the world to do this thing, and just throw people together. And, when people were added to these conversations on iMessage, it was literally sink or swim. People would go in, they would last 30 minutes, they were fired instantly. But if you came in and you had the right attitude and you could action things at lightning speed, then, you'd have a chance at staying and working with the team. So that opportunity, call it luck, a full circle moment now. But, we managed to pull it off, and that's been also a big entry for us into the US. Now we have a lot of other deals that have presented themselves with similar figures in the music industry and, the world of celebrities and influence. So, yeah, we're open to new opportunities, have learned a lot, and we're keen to keep taking things to another level.
Dude, what the fuck? I'm like blown away by that story. I mean, like Kanye West, you were sleeping on no way. We're just in a moment. I feel like everyone listening to this is feeling the exact same way. Someone's on their run right now going, what the fuck, Noah? What did you just say? What? Dude, so you're sleeping on a mattress with a curtain in Melbourne?
In Melbourne.
In Melbourne.
Yeah.
And next minute, you're doing fucked numbers with Yeezy.
With Yeezy.
And that consumed what the next 4 months of your life looked like, all in just with that?
Relentless. It was, it took a lot.
Everything went on the back foot and you just focused all on that?
Correct. Yeah.
And was this with your agency, Creative Converters, or something different?
It was Nick, my business partner in Future Fulfillment, and myself led the whole project.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so for you said that like one of the key lessons there was speed. Like they don't muck around here. I feel like when you look at the biggest operators in the world, and we're speaking with people like Tim, that's one of the biggest lessons I learned as well, is people's ability to identify opportunity fast, but fail even faster.
Yes.
Move on.
Yeah.
It's like not dwelling on things, not letting any emotion get in the way.
Yep.
If something's not working, they pack up shop and they're done and they're out and they're on to the next thing. They're not dwelling on it. They're moving. And speed is like success loves speed.
Success loves speed. So true. Yes.
Yeah. It's just like this reminder of like I've been talking a lot about the be to have concept and being the person that you want to be and doing the things that person does, and by doing so you'll have that life. And like if you want to be a successful business person and you want to play at the level like these big guys, how are they acting? How are they dealing with things? And I know you're thinking that way, because when we were speaking before the show about someone really successful, the first thing you asked me was like, what are they doing differently? It's like if we can understand how their life looks and we desire to have a life like them, well, let's not wait till we have that to be that person. Let's be that person now, do the things that person does, react the way they do, treat things like they do. And I bet you're going to get to that level a whole lot quicker than trying to figure it out on the way.
That's right. Yeah, that's why mentors are so key, because you can't play the next game unless you have the opportunity to see what the next game is. So when you are working with these people that are a few steps ahead of you, having that opportunity and really studying how they're operating, how they're moving, that's the quickest way to get to the next level up yourself.
And so obviously Future Fulfillment's being 3PL and fulfillment for brands. You mentioned you and your business partner just obviously onboarded this project and managed this thing. It's not obviously a fulfillment project. That's more of a marketing project, right? What does the future look like is Future Fulfillment staying in its lane and you're doing some other marketing stuff in a new company, or what does the future look like in terms of where your focus is?
Sure, yeah. So, this year we are launching new warehouses around the world. So we have 2 more in Melbourne, 2 in Sydney. We've also got our warehouse in Shanghai that we're expanding, and also looking at the European market because there's a lot happening over there. In terms of the marketing component, manufacturing and sourcing, these are also things that we're building into the future brand, because fulfillment is, arguably the most important part in e-commerce, especially for people that already have influence and audiences, because it's one thing to sell 1 million units. It's another thing to fulfill 1 million units. So, fortunately, we have the global infrastructure to get a parcel to literally any country on the planet. So for a lot of these, bigger influencers or, musicians, anything like that, who already have brands or want to launch brands, we can actually help end to end. Call it 5PL, where you include the manufacturing, but you also include the marketing of these businesses.
Where do you think the future of e-commerce is going, and consumer spending and the way people are buying products? So everything from distribution, fulfillment, like where do you see the future of e-commerce going?
Well, I think the numbers don't lie. E-commerce is growing every single year very, very quickly. And because of new global logistics networks, the world's just getting a lot smaller. So instead of having to, move bulky goods around the world and localize fulfillment everywhere, now, you can ship from China to the rest of the world very, very fast and at a cost-effective rate. So, future China is bringing the world closer together. And again, I also love this idea of just allowing that kid in his bedroom in his hoodie with an idea to build something really, really big from his laptop. And we're powering that. That's who future is built for. It's for those people that want to take on the corporations and the big companies and build something amazing.
End to end, manufacturing all the way to marketing, fulfillment, it's genius. Do you think creators and people with a presence online is going to be a massive part of that, given direct to consumer brands crushing it when there's an influencer or a massive creator behind it, and seeing the way people are spending money through but people buying people, and obviously when someone with a trusted voice or name is behind something, someone's more inclined to buy it now. Do you think that's going to be a massive part of where spending goes? People aren't buying brands anymore, they're buying people?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah, you can see that with, a lot of the biggest brands on the planet. Take someone like Elon Musk, for example. I think people buy into him and his vision. So I think creators are the future, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, for sure. And then spending wise, you're seeing things like TikTok Shop and Meta Shop, and people, these companies taking on companies like Amazon, where they're directly being able to purchase through the websites or the platforms that people are spending hours on every single day. Is that a space where you see future fulfillment playing a role in as well, or already playing a role in? And do you think that's going to be massive?
Yeah, so we already integrate with all of those platforms, be it TikTok Shop or, shopping feeds on Instagram. And I think, the more frictionless the shopping experience is, the more people are able just to, it's like those impulsive buys. They're able to transact with so much ease. And I've also seen an app recently called Standstore, which, has been insane for creators, where you can just now have a link in your Instagram bio and you can sell digital products or, memberships to communities. And with AI, it's literally fill in a few prompts and it's just creating it for you. Pick your colors, and it's now easier than ever to, launch an offer online, be it physical or digital products. So I definitely see, that's where the future is.
I think it's massive just to be able to look at those trends and go, where can we play a role, and kind of take existing successful things in a more old school way and make it modern and current with the times.
Yes.
To be able to kind of pioneer a certain space in this new age.
Yeah.
It's crazy seeing how brands are operating, how the platforms are incentivizing creatives and creators and brands, and it's really cool to see where the space is going. And I think it's an interesting thing where you have people have all of their doubts and concerns, and they want to hate different things that are evolving, but that gets you nowhere. It's like being able to just pivot and adapt with the times and be nimble with whatever's changing is probably going to be the way you win, because if you get caught up in your own ways, you're just going to get stuck behind.
That's right. And that was the opportunity we saw in the 3PL industry. People weren't adapting, or, these warehouses weren't agile. When we first had the idea to get into the fulfillment game, we went and visited as many as we possibly could. And it was just the same story, a lack of innovation. These 3PLs had been around since, pre-Shopify and e-commerce. And they weren't built for the modern e-commerce founder or the modern e-commerce consumer. So that was really the gap in the market that we saw. We thought, I think this industry needs disruption. And there's so much happening on the front end with TikTok Shop and with creators. And how then do you create amazing customer experiences with the back end, whether it be, packaging or how fast it's coming, or even our marketing, the way that we communicate what we do to the world. We try and keep it very current and fresh. So yes, that's really how Future was born.
So cool. Just being able to identify the little parts in the market. Just before we wrap up the show, I want to ask you a bit more of a personal question away from business and work. Fast forward to now, after having, an exit, having some really cool success stories, even awesome things like with the Yeezy story and all amazing things from the outside. It looks like things are just going so well. What would you say your biggest challenge would be in life right now?
My biggest challenge in life right now, I think it's a challenge. I think the thing that I'm going through now, I'm 28 years old, and now the idea of having a family is something that I'm starting to think about. And I'm now working out who I need to become and what I need to do over the next few years now, before maybe bringing a human into this world or multiple of them. And I think the challenge there is just being ready for that, because over the last year or so, something in me went, no, that is the next chapter and that's coming, and I'm very excited for it. But it's also daunting because I still feel like a kid in a lot of ways. So it's a challenge, but it's one that I'm really excited for. And I'm now working to stepping into that zone of being a dad, being a husband, and moving into that next phase of my life. So
big change.
That's a big change.
It's also the reason I like to ask that question is because what I find is that, like, so many people are going through the same things. You got people in their late 20s, early 30s where they feel like, oh shit, like it actually is time for this. Or, I get a little success story or get some runs on the board, and you're like, oh, so I've been working so hard to make all this money, but like, why am I doing it? Okay, to set up my family. Well, I don't have a family. Well, that's the next step.
Yeah,
and you kind of get in this phase, right, where that is a very normal thing. Do you think the lack of stability growing up and having this zero attachment to the place you're at, the people you're with, and that experience of life that you've had is making it harder to settle down, have family, and take that next step, because like it's not in your nature, I guess you could say?
Not at all. I think, there's two parts to this. One is, when my parents had me, they were traveling before, and when I came into the world, they didn't stop. It's like, I also want to show my kids that, there's a big world out there. And I think that if they're able to grow up between multiple cultures, multiple countries, that's how I was raised, and I would want to pass that on to them. But there's also the other side of it where, I'm thinking about having a big family and, really having roots somewhere in one country as well. So that's exciting for me because, I see other people with that setup and I'm like, that's really interesting. And I guess the beauty in life is you can have it all. I had the childhood myself moving around, and now, I can have a big family and I can be that grandfather in the corner when I'm older.
And do you think Melbourne's the spot for you, or?
Let's see. It's good, but it's cold in winter. So Melbourne summer, without a doubt, best place on the planet. In winter, questionable. So
that makes me realize that I spent 4 months there in winter.
Right.
And so I've not, and everyone's like, oh, just if you get past November, you'll stay there forever. And
That's true.
I'm like, is this what so like 2 months of the year is what calls people to stay the whole 12 in Melbourne, apparently. People seem to just hang on to the summer of Melbourne and how good it is. But I think the only reason it's so good is because everyone's so low in winter that it's like the polarity makes the sun shine so much better.
That's right. When it's out, you need to make the most of it. So the city erupts.
It's an interesting thing when you don't live there and you live in a place that is a lot more sunny, like the Gold Coast. You go there and you see how excited people are about a sunny day. And then I'm like, what's going on here? But then it takes living there and going, okay, we don't get sun very much here.
That's right.
I'm supplementing vitamin D because I'm not getting enough. And then you go, the sun comes out and you have this euphoric feeling. Makes sense. It makes sense. But I appreciate you sharing and, that's a challenge. It's a big step for anyone in life, really, going on to that next fatherhood, family, dad, husband, all of the titles.
Yeah.
Wow, a lot. I appreciate you coming on the show. And just before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to share or anything that's been on your mind?
I would just like to thank you for having me. The breathwork session that we did before the podcast was awesome, and this conversation was awesome.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I want to commend you too. It's just like, it's so inspiring seeing someone in their 20s just killing it the way you are. And I just think it's just so fucking cool. And it paves a way, and it can inspire so many people to do the same. And I think it's beating the stigma of you're not too young to be doing things. Like your maturity isn't tied to your age. It's tied to bearing that responsibility. And the more you do, the more you grow, and the more competent you come at things. And then through that competency, you kind of gain this level of maturity in whatever field that is. And so if we can take that lens, it's like you can be 16 and start doing some cool things. And I've got some friends that, have been making millions since they're younger, and it's important not to get caught comparing and thinking you're not going well for your age. But I also think there's nobility in what they're doing, and you can use that as case studies and success stories to gain inspiration from. And you're one of those, which is really cool. So thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. And if you guys have made it to the end, I'm going to leave all of Noah's details in the show notes and the description below, so you can go and check him out and all of the stuff that he's doing and his vlogs that he's doing now. You go check him out for yourself. And if you've enjoyed the show, screenshot it and post it on your stories and tag Noah and I, so you can let us know that you've made it to the end and you enjoyed the show. And then, of course, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple or wherever you're watching this, because it helps the show grow and it helps us keep getting awesome, amazing people just like Noah back on the show, so we can keep on growing together. I'm going to sign up for this week, but I will see you next week. See you guys. Let's go. That was awesome, bro.